All right, so we are back at it again. Me and this sweater. I tell you, this sweater has been a lot for me. So here we are. Yay! This is done. And I was supposed to, knit an inch. I think just a little over an inch and then change to white per the pattern. Because the pattern said knit for 3.5 centimeters. I thought inches. How smart is that? So what should have just been an inch ended up being almost 3 inches. So I got annoyed and frustrated with that. And I said, you know what? Let me go back and deal with the bottom that I had. So with the bottom, this part right here was much fatter, and you could see, I don't know if you can tell, this indent right here, that's happening. I don't know if that's because when I was knitting the colors, it ended up being tighter, but the pattern calls for a knit one, which is this, knit one, purl one, rib. And that ends up, just by sheer nature of the knit, being fatter and looser. So my knit instructor, who I've talked about before, my mentor, I don't even know what to call her, said to go down 2 sizes to make it small, 3 sizes to make this not so visible. And that's what I did. So it's not as visible. So I'm hoping that when I go to block it, it will look a lot better. So what I did was I took it out from the bottom, and now I am going to continue to knit back until I have the 3 inches that I need here. I've committed to knitting for like 15 minutes a day so I can do all the things that I want to do. Gosh, I swear every day I'm finding a new knit pattern, and there's only but so fast you can knit. And in my mind, I'm like, I must knit faster. I must knit faster because I want to do all the things. And when I do that, sometimes it takes away from the zen that is supposed to come with knitting. So I'm going to try my best to not think so much about how long I've been on a pattern, and more so enjoy the knitting experience of it all, because that will, at least I hope, make it not seem like it is taking so long. And then the other part of it too, why sometimes you have multiple projects going, is simply because you need to switch things up. Luckily for me, because I am knitting the top and the bottom, and there are issues that need to be fixed, when I get bored with doing this, I can go and work on another part of this wonderful sweater. But I swear, probably I have 2 more times to really focus on this sweater before I move into the things that I am very excited about, which are my baby blankets that I am designing for those who want to knit something fun for moms, for, those when they're in their nesting phase who also want to get into creating something for their child with their own hands. So, plus it's fun, there's no shaping or whatever. And the means to get to that is to go through this. There's nothing wrong with starting a pattern, realizing that you don't like it, and moving on to something else or repurposing the yarn. But there is also something to be said for completing something that you committed to do. And I am going to finish this sweater. The crazy part about it is that there's so many different elements, like the color work, then the Zen knitting part of it, where it's just like I knit here for such a long time that I got a whole bunch of variety out of knitting this sweater. So I didn't get bored, but I guess the eagerness to move on to the other designs are what's kind of making me somewhat impatient and not actually enjoying the journey. So I think one of the things that we need to do as we knit is also enjoy the journey. And then when you get into, oh, that's a pearl. When you get into other things, you are kind of already programmed and trained to savor what you're doing and learn to. Like, I thought I knew a lot, but as I go through this, I've come to realize that there's so much more than I can knit. And also, I have an Instagram. I don't know if it's called site, page, whatever it is, but I'm on Instagram, Knit Culture, KNITKULTURE. And I put my knit inspirations there so that when I do finally get through some of these knits or I get an idea, I also get that zen without going down that scrolling rabbit hole. Ooh, excuse me. I don't know why I'm so scratchy right now. This weather's been ridiculous with all this pollen and rain and stuff like that. So yeah, you should really take the time to just relax, feel the yarn, see how the pattern is going, not be so hell-bent on the pattern being perfect either. Like, I already vented about how I have so many mistakes in this, but in all honesty, in all reality, unless you say to somebody, do you see this mistake? Unless they're a real avid knitter, they're not going to notice. They're really, really not going to notice. But it's you, and it's fine. That is a valid feeling or concern that you should have because you know what it should be. But sometimes also, don't let that stop you from moving forward and probably creating something that's even better than what the original pattern called for, that you stumbled upon by accident. A lot of genius things happen just on accident. So maybe you should embrace it. Maybe I should embrace it. I'm probably talking to myself right now because I like to understand the rules first before I break them. So because this is the first time I'm doing a yoke, not necessarily a sweater, but the first time that I'm doing a yoke, I wanted to do it, perfectly. so that I could say, yes, I did it. I did it right the first time. And now when I go to make another yoke, because I really did enjoy this, I can figure out what works best for me. I liked seeing the pattern and the design evolve on its own, and I might look into creating yoke designs as well. Maybe drop a yoke design every quarter and offer that up for others to get into, like making it beginner knit friendly. There's an idea. Maybe I can do that. But you have to first, as I always believe, know the rules. And I really got hung up in all the mistakes that I made. But even though I made mistakes, I intend to learn from them, and it's a learning moment for most of us. When we make mistakes, it's one thing to make the mistake and not learn from it, but it's another. And I think it makes you better that when you make a mistake, what did you learn? What did you realize and understand better about that project or that situation that you were in, that you can now look to improve should you ever come across something like that again in the future? There's so many teachable moments that you can connect to what's going on in real life just from being a knitter. And I think that's one of the things that you can take from this. When you make mistakes, what do you do? How do you handle it? And how do you prevent or prepare for the next time should a similar situation come along? That's what I think anyway. Maybe if you're wondering why I have these Ziploc bags. Listen, there are notions left, right, and center. I got a bag full of notions here for all the knitting things that I need to help me through a pattern. But sometimes the things in your kitchen are the best. Like these Ziploc bags. I know they have the fancy bags with the holes, and yeah, you can use those and it's great. But sometimes, unless you're pulling from the center of the yarn, like if you have a ball, when you pull the yarn so that you can continue on the pattern, sometimes with cloth on cloth, there's so much friction it doesn't pull as easily. And in the Ziploc bag, and my mentor again taught me that trick. With the Ziploc bag, it moves more smoothly, especially when you're working with colors and you have to switch between one or the other, or you want to keep it clean, depending on the type of wrap that they gave you the yarn in, or how the yarn was wound. You don't want it to get dirty, and you still want it to slip and unravel for you easily. So that's why I have the Ziploc bags in here. And at first I was like, Ziploc bag, what? Why? And using it, I realized that, guess what? It's genius. It's genius. You get these things, supermarkets, Costco has the pack with the multiple sizes. Get yourself some. You might only need like 3 or 4 that you can continue to use over and over again, but I think it's well worth it. So I will be here continuing to knit and purl. See, knit and purl for 3 inches. I think I'm at about probably 1.5 inches. And for most of as I say that, for most of the knits that I do, I prefer to do this method where I throw it, right? But for some reason, because I just wanted to move very fluidly, I will use my left hand and have the feeding yarn in my left hand whenever there's a knit purl rib, because if not, it doesn't flow as easily for me that way. And I can just simply switch back and forth. That's why probably in the other videos, you'll notice that I'm doing everything with my right hand. But now, just because of where I am in the pattern, it works out easier for me to do everything in the left hand with the feeding yarn. And yes, this is a knit. That's another mess up that I had. This project is supposed to be knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. But when I got to the end of the row, I noticed that I didn't end on a purl as I should have. And I was going crazy trying to figure out what it is that I did, only to find out. And I put markers here so that I could pay attention when I got there. Otherwise, I'm just blindly doing knit, purl. But right here is where I have 2 knits. So that just allows me to stay in this pattern where I made a mistake. Well, actually, where I created a different design, glass half full, so that I can stop racking my brain trying to find the mistake. And then once I find the mistake, not beat myself up trying to fix the mistake, because it would have been a whole lot more to try and fix the mistake instead of just including it in the pattern. Plus, nobody would even really notice unless I pointed it out. It would be like someone saying to me, "Oh, I like your sweater," and me saying, "Yeah, but I got a mistake. It's right here." Who's going to notice that? Who's going to notice that? And those are the kinds of things that you have to get over. But I have this knit right here where I have 2 knits. But then that meant that there was someplace else that I must have done the same thing. So I put a marker here as well to call out where I have the other 2 knits. So at least I can keep some semblance of the pattern that nobody would notice, and everything would be absolutely fine. But yeah, once I do my 3 inches and I'm making slow progress, then the next thing I have to do is like a Kitchener's stitch under the arm. And if you've seen any of my other videos, you will know that I don't like this yarn, so I'm knitting this and then I'm going to give it away. But because this yarn tends to get fuzzy so that you can't really see the knit, and it's going to be a little challenging for me to see as I do the Kitchener stitch to make under the arm seamless. But that's probably like next week or sometime later when I'm going to do that. For now, I am going to continue down this path of the knit, purl, knit that I need to finish this, because I had to take out from the bottom up and then knit back to the bottom because it didn't look right. I swear I took this out like 3 times. This bottom 3 times, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, again. But I want it to look nice. Even though I'm not going to keep it, I do want it to look nice. So I will do my best to, ooh, what did I do? Did I do something? I don't know. For some reason, this yarn, it's just not as straight as I would love it to be. And sometimes I feel like I'm dropping a stitch, but it's just because the yarn itself is uneven that sometimes it just gives me a bit of anxiety. Like, come on. So note to self, this particular yarn, this Icelandic yarn, not on my list for future, but I will make quite a few more yokes, probably now that I have a general idea of how a basic pattern I can work to improve and create my own pattern of it. But there's more to come on that. I just have random ramblings as I go through the different patterns and the different things that I work on. So that's basically what this is, because I really don't have anybody to talk to when I get home. And I do want my energy to go somewhere. And then when I get into my blanket, that'll be fun and pretty too. So I'm going to share in that knit along as well, because it will go with my new blankets, and it will also help with the blanket pattern, my very first blanket pattern that I put together that is on Rivalry right now, which I think is great. And I'm so proud of it. It's my first in this, and I hope some mother or somebody who's interested in sharing a blanket that they can customize for a new baby or a bundle of joy will pick the pattern up and actually enjoy going through the process. I tried to make it as clear as possible and as versatile as possible for the knitter so that they won't feel overwhelmed and they'll enjoy just going through the process of knitting, because knitting is, as they say, good for your health. But anyway, I think that's enough for tonight. I will continue this knit as I mentioned before. See, look at this. It looks like you dropped a stitch, but it's just this blooming yarn. Yeah, so that's it for tonight. I hope you continue to knit. I hope you've learned some things or picked up some gems, and I hope you continue to enjoy knitting or hearing my voice or just watching my fingers knit along as some kind of soothe to yourself. And we'll pick it back up with the next video. Until then, happy knitting and enjoy your day and be safe until we meet back here sometime. Okay? All right. Well, bye for now.